Okay, no breaks. I could have taken a break, but I didn't. I'm gonna go straight into trying to thin this down. Okay. Lots of selective braiding. Well, first in general, and then as it gets thinner and thinner, I have to be a little more careful with what I abrade, because I don't want to have to be resharpening a dull edge when it's really narrow and thin. That's the hardest edge to sharpen, because you lose any of that edge and this point doesn't look right. You have to redo a lot. A little bit of removal on the edge on a long narrow point affects the overall look quite a bit, but it doesn't have the same effect with a wider point. Okay, so very careful where I braid, how much. Can't braid too much, because then the flakes are too difficult to remove and it breaks the whole thing. Okay. Talking about hardening of the tips in the last video, hardening of the steel at the tip. Yep, but I can deal with it. I do. I'll live with that because of the advantages of steel, of durability and lack of expense. Okay. I'll put up with the hardening. The hardening also happens with copper, but maybe not to the same extent. I don't know. It's been a while since I used copper. I can't really make a comparison there. It's been a long time since I've used copper. I think it's still thick enough that I can use indirect percussion with good effect. Maybe, maybe not. Not when it does that. I just produced that step fracture. Can I avoid those with pressure? Well, if I'm better at pressure than I am with percussion, yes. But if I'm not, no. You get those with pressure flakes too. But percussion is easier on the wrist. Like, I can't do that with pressure. Not yet, anyway. Those big old flakes. That take down the turtlebacks so nicely. Some guys can do that with pressure. Maybe someday. I was feeling kind of strange today. I had to sleep in. Getting dizzy spells from something messing with the ears, right? You guys that have allergies, you get this weird things going on with your ears. My sympathies. I get the same thing. Sometimes you hear this underwater type thing going on. I had that last night a little bit, not much, but a little bit. I listen to audiobooks before I go to sleep, and I was feeling the or as the speaker was narrating as I was falling asleep. It was driving me nuts as I was not falling asleep because it was driving me nuts. So that's got to be allergy, right? I got that steroidal type of nasal spray. That works really good. But it takes a while for the ears to clear up. So they didn't clear up until this afternoon. Hopefully I don't have that same weird noise tonight. Or that weird feeling, because I do like listening to audiobooks when I'm sleeping or falling asleep. Yeah. Steppy, steppy. Alright, I gotta pay attention. Ooh, almost got it. Not quite. But I have the old fancy steel tool trick where you can push on the front of the step fracture and blow it away, hopefully. Yeah, it doesn't look that great. But it's easier to run a flake over that when it's flat than sticking up. Yep. There's another one right there. Just call it a Nodina and you're good. That's it. Done. Over with. Well, some Nodinas were very thin. If they were all thick. Yep, that's done. Except for sharpening. It's got dull spots all over it from the abrading. Alright, let's work on the ends a little bit. Let us work on the ends. It's not cooperating. I don't want to hit hard. Don't make me bring out the big guns. What are they, big guns? The big guns are the high power strikes. Because although they can produce some really nice, long, beautiful flakes, you can mess up your whole day. Alright. Very delicate, very delicate. If you don't like delicate work, then you shouldn't be trying any of this. This is very delicate work. And it takes me just as long to make one of these little points as it does a big point. You know, just as long to make, just as much time to make this little 3-inch point or 4-inch point as it does a big old 7-inch point. Let's see. How long is it? 3 3/8. Okay, so not even close to 4. Anyway, it takes me just as long. So I need a good reason to do these. And the only good reason would be to film it. They don't sell well. I already have some Nodinas, or I had some. I didn't really keep them in my collection. Oh, that's going to hurt. I don't know if I can get that with pressure because it's a big fat area. I might be able to. Let's see. I'll use a sharp tip pressure flaker just because it will allow me to get in there on that platform that's really, really tiny. All right, here we go. Now, what my hope was it would fan out. It did fan out, but not quite enough. See if I can push on the front of that step fracture. Some of you guys are going, finally some intricate, close-in, delicate work. Finally. Yep. Because they're going to make earrings for a customer who wants little bitty points. Yep, I know the deal. That kind of worked, but it's not that great. I'm going to try to send in the flake to get rid of that step fracture, then I'll come back to the other one. A lot of force on that one. The first strike didn't do anything, so I had to put a lot of force, and it worked. Luckily. How about another one? Is that going to work? Oh, yes. Very nice. Another one. You know, the odds decrease the more you flake with the same type of flake. Unless the surface is perfect, your odds of success decrease. But as long as I make the adjustments that I need to and take a little breather between each flake, I might be able to do it. Might be able to do this. Yep, there we go. So when I do stuff like Cody points, I'll do it like that, but in between each strike requires a little bit of a pause, an analysis. There's a slight variation in the flake removal. Pay attention to the tool tip quality, the edge quality, so that your odds are not declining as you progress, but staying about the same. Alright, let's see. Every flake is a brand new day. A little bit too much force on that one, but the surface is what counts. Now, if I was trying to make it pretty, I would have messed it up because it's a little bit too much force. And the way they used to do it back in the day was very carefully. And yes, I have no doubt that they were using percussion on some of these, even this small. Some, because punch work was available for notching. Why not for the sides? You can punch notch this with a vertical punch too. You don't have to use a horizontal punch to do these flakes. In case you didn't know. I prefer the horizontal punch because I can see what I'm doing. With the vertical punch, it gets in the way. At least the way I do it. Yeah, I'm doing it wrong. Okay. I know I'm doing it wrong. It's the way to do it where you can see what you're doing. I suppose. I don't hear anybody else complaining about that. So I don't know what's up with me. Okay, one more chance. Am I going to be able to blow through that step fracture? Or do I just want to pick it off? I can try picking it off. Much safer proposition to try to pick it off than to try to blast it off. I'm just pushing on the face of that step fracture. I kind of got in there as best I could, but there's not much of a face left. Now I took off the top. I suppose I could try one more time to get in there. I sharpened this down, but I still can't get in there. I'll try one more attempt. Well, let's try from this side. I've been trying to push off from this side, but now I can turn it this way and push off from this side. See that? The light is reflecting off of that step. I was pushing on this side, took off the top of that, but now I can try pushing on that side. All right. Just a little push. Just a little bitty push. Took most of it off. But it still doesn't look good, so I need to clean it up. All right. Clean it with pressure, you say? Okay. Let's see if it works. Yes, it'll work. Just keep a positive mindset. It'll work. It'll work. Okay, here we go. I don't want to break it. I break a lot of stuff with pressure. And it can't be a weak little bitty pressure flake. I didn't push hard enough, but it's not too bad. I can try one more time later. Yeah, it's going to get more narrow. I can try later. Okay. Yeah, how many minutes just on that one area? So I'm going back and regularize the edge after I did that pass on that side. You know, I did that pass. So I regularize the edge by knocking off what they call deltas, or the little points sticking out, so that now I can flip it over and start removing flakes from the other side. Right? Right. I don't know, maybe the tip's not thin enough yet. Yeah, probably not thin enough, now that I think about it. See, it's thinner here, or see how it's not tapering nicely? I'd rather have it tapering nicely. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna hit the worst spots first. How's that? Yeah. Needs more power behind those pressure flakes. That was a little bit better. Pressure flaker's got a seat and not crunch. Yeah, it's got to be a little snap. It's a little snap. There it goes. Figure out which side would be better to remove a flake from. Because you can do that. You can take flakes from both sides. Doesn't have to be sequential. It can be random. Random is a good thing. All right. Sometimes. Whenever I get little bits of leather stuck to the tip, it tells me that the tip is kind of jagged. I don't want it jagged. I want it nice and smooth. All right. Yeah, I can't see the edge all that well when it's that small. It's got a seat. Got a seat just above the edge. Push off a good flake. Now I can probably push on the front of that. Yep. With the spatula tool. Yes. Still got a lumpy spot there. Right there, that lumpy spot. I need to drive a flake into there. But there's a step on that side, and there's a step on that side. What to do, what to do? Push on the front of this step fracture, just to see what happens. Yeah, just push on the front of the step fracture, see what happens. There's the flake. Did it help? Yeah, very, very little. Still a little bit of... Let me zoom in. There was a step fracture all the way across. I pushed off the first time, took that off, pushed off the rest of the step fracture, took that off. Flattened it a little bit, but it didn't remove the step fracture here on the other side. So I need to run another flake to clean it up. Although on real artifacts, they didn't worry too much about those. They didn't worry too much about these on the edge. But I am going to, just because. Just because of the guy that needs to make earrings and he hates those. He wants the earrings to be perfect. Or whatever, the pendant to be perfect, or the display arrow in the case to have perfect edge retouch. Ah. Alright, so the mistake is it didn't get seated. I thought there was a seat there, but I pushed on it and it wasn't strong enough. So it just crushed, left another step right next to the first one. Yeah, if I try to run a flake from the other side all the way, try to overshoot, kinda, it's not a good strategy. Overshot is a last resort. The last resort. Or that won't be an overshot. That'll be a potential one that, you know, if you shoot a flake that is a potential overshot, a lot of times it'll stop at the step fracture. It won't go all the way. But not always. Sometimes the potential overshot will go under the step fracture and take off the other edge. Leave you sitting there crushing the remainder of the point into dust with a steel hammer. I'm just working on symmetry until I can figure out what I'm going to do. And this is why I don't have much for the auction, because I'm sitting here with other projects. I spent 2 days on the thinnest Cahokia possible project, and I still didn't get it done. Still didn't get it done. And then I come out here and I see Ray's preform, and I go, you know, I can probably get that on video to where I thin it down and make something out of it, because I do that on Knap-ins too. People like seeing that. So here I go. So I tried to blast through that, but it didn't work all that well. I'm just going to leave it. There's still a little bit left, but I don't care. Can I make little miniature tools and get in there? Yep. You can make tools any size you want. It's just a matter of scale with these. It'll flake the same whether you have a big old tool or a little tool. You can get out a magnifying glass or a microscope and Knap that way too for these little edge flakes if you're so inclined. It's all just a matter of scale. It's the same whether it's a big piece or a little piece. The important thing is to be able to see what you're doing. You can Knap with a needle and make extremely fine, narrow pressure flakes with the tip of a needle. A steel needle, yes. Needles are actually not too bad because they're designed to be a little bit flexible, so the steel is not all that hard. Flexible so they don't snap when you're sewing. So the steel is kind of good for this kind of thing. I used to sharpen my bird point tippity tips with pins. But I'll just sharpen the nail these days. Or the ice pick or whatever. Alright, so I got one more area that I need to really thin down. It's this area here. Well, actually the whole thing needs one more pass. So I'll do that now. Randomly take flakes off where I see lumps and maybe do some damage control. You know, if I see a step fracture I might be able to get out. I'm going to use some indirect percussion on these thick spots. I try to do all my abrading to begin with. I'll look and see where I need to hit and I'll abrade it so I don't have to keep putting the abrader down, picking it back up, putting it down, picking it back up. Alright. Doesn't really matter where I start. Or does it? Yes, there's always a best strategic location for everything. And there's always a tool preparation that's best for every situation. There is, theoretically. But there's still many different ways to go about removing the last series of flakes. Heck, I'll just do it with pressure. Just do it with pressure. Nope. Nope. Not until I develop my pressure pads further, like I was saying. I need to develop my pressure pads in such a way that I minimize them. So I don't have to deal with complications arising from the pad itself. The pad is supposed to be a facilitator, not an obstacle. Okay. If you use one. Definitely cannot be an obstacle. Although some guys adapt to it. It's ideal just not to have obstacles. Well, using steel is an obstacle. Yeah, so I'm not heeding my own advice. Yeah. In that respect, you're right. But I want to get good at steel so no one can tell me nothing. No one can badmouth steel unless it's correct in front of me. If you're right, you're right. But if you're just bad-mouthing steel without knowing what its potential is, I'll catch you. I'll catch it. I'll make an annoying video. Yes, yes, yes. Please tell me I did it. Haha. It did it. It went where I wanted it to go. Did that do it that time too? Oh yes. Oh yeah. Okay. I can't get too cocky. Everything must be perfect. It starts getting thin. Everything must be perfect. Especially with percussion, when you're wielding so much power. Lots of responsibility. Wait, that's a different thing. No, it's the same thing. With lots of power comes lots of responsibility. Even in napping. Okay, I'm going to call it good because I'm out of time. I'll make something out of it later. I'll put it in the biface stack. There it goes.